name is Sharita, and I'm going to be presenting my perspective on artificial intelligence is not alive. So I'm going to give a few points into what artificial intelligence is as far as some of the things we were familiar with, what we saw growing up, and the definition that has been made since the year 1955. Okay, so what is artificial intelligence? Artificial intelligence is a computer-based system that interprets human-like perception, speech linguistics, decision-making, and sometimes movements. And we're going to go into a little depth about how Hanson robotics that we saw the first day of class is related to this as well. And this is just a chart, how it relates to biology, philosophy, linguistics, and psychology. So, some of my first impressions of artificial intelligence included a few movies and toys. So, there's a movie that came out in 1999. I was 4 years old, but it's called The Iron Giant, and it's about a young boy, and this was set back in the 1950s, that comes across a robot that was made from a foreign land outside the United States. And I'll give away part of the movie. Toward the end of the movie, the robot is able to, it self-destructs because of a missile, and then comes back together. So from my perspective, I always thought artificial intelligence has life and can come back. And also the robot dog, which we see with a lot of, I don't know if any of you guys had this toy, but it doesn't die necessarily. You don't have to feed it, you don't have to walk it, you just give it the bone so many times a day. But for me, my family ended up not putting the batteries back in it, so it did die anyway. But it still came back to life if I were to go get it from my basement downstairs. And lastly, I have the Tamagotchi. So I don't know if any of you guys had the Tamagotchi growing up, but how you had the Tamagotchi, you had the ABC point, so it was ABC, and you had your little egg, and you could feed it, you could take it for a walk, it could respond if it's hungry. But at the end of it, which is not like normal life, it dies, but if you hit the A and C button twice, then it comes back to life. So this is, to me, I didn't think this was actually life, but these are just my first few impressions of artificial intelligence from a late 90s, early 2000s perspective. So now just to get into what artificial intelligence is from now more of a college level standpoint, a more biological standpoint in a way, I have a small short clip from the movie I, Robot with Will Smith, and how there was a defect in determining how you should choose life, how a human would choose life versus how a robot would choose life. So let me show you the quick video.
Passing by, so we can actually stand and jump in the water. You are in danger. Save her! Save the girl! Save her!
Vital signs and the calculated that.
Yes. I was the logical choice. Calculated that I had a 45% chance of survival. Sarah only had an 11% chance. I was somebody's baby. 11% is more than enough. Human being would have known that. Nothing here is slaves.
clip from iRobot, and it showed how the robots that are being made and used for artificial intelligence sometimes go by logic and what is seen as the most perceptive way to go about the task versus a human standpoint of what's right and wrong. So you saw from the movie, Will Smith did have a higher chance of surviving, and that's to be known, adults would have a higher chance of surviving. But the robot would not see that that's an actual child or that's a female, and you should save that person. An example of this was seen in 2014, actually from a man from Canton, who was one of the first men to be killed in one of the uses of the smart car. He was not in Canton, he was in Williston, Florida, and it was a detection or a mistake by the smart car because it could not detect the tractor. Let me go on to the next slide. So this is just an image of the smart car, and this is just an example of what people look like in it. But you can also watch TV as well. So he was watching TV while he was on the interstate in Florida, in Williston, Florida. And the smart car did not detect the white side of the trailer. They said it was the white side had a reflection with the sun, and it thought it was just part of the sky. But the truck began coming over, and the smart car did not detect that, and it was a really bad collision, and the man named Joshua Brown, he did not survive. Now, those are the little mistakes that artificial intelligence can make that sometimes human, we can see color detection between. And this is just an example of what a smart car looks like, but that's my example in comparison to the movie iRobot. So, artificial intelligence not only is used for transportation, but also in assistance such as surgery, and now they're saying companionship, which is showing us we're getting closer to the year of the movie iRobot. But this is one of the robots named Sophie. She is part of the line of Hansen Robotics, which is the same robot we saw our first year of school made by Dr. Hansen. And like I said, artificial intelligence is not human because it fails to detect what's right and wrong. In an interview, the clip was really long, but in the interview, one of the interviewers asked her, do you plan to kill humankind? Do you plan to kill humans? She misinterpreted the question and said, I will plan to kill humans. Now, people called it a glitch, but there are glitches like that between whether something's a question or whether something's right or wrong and why you would do that. She thought on command she was supposed to respond saying, I will kill humans. And this is also located on Yahoo's page as well from 2014. But those are little glitches as well that if she's given a command, you don't want it to be the choice of life or death. This is also, if you guys heard of surgery using robots. Surgery using robots, the plus side of it is that it can get into certain parts of the brain that doctors cannot get into as easily, but hospitals have had concerns about if there's ever a bug in the system, just like we have a bug in computers, that could shut down the system as well during surgery. So, from my perspective, using artificial intelligence, I am a Spanish minor, so I have used some translations because artificial intelligence is about speech linguistics. When you use any translator through Google, that is artificial intelligence. So this sentence in English is, I am very excited to meet new people at the conference. So in Spanish, it translated through Google Translation, estoy excitado por conocer gente nueva la conferencia. Now, that may sound fine, but the word estoy excitado is wrong because first I'm a female, so it should be a. And second, excitado actually means the wrong kind of excited. It means sexually excited in Spanish versus the muy emocionada, which is that type of excited. My Spanish professor gave me this example, but this is when he went to study abroad, he had the wrong translations that he did. This is also a mistake that was used through Google Translation. Éxito aquí. Éxito aquí means, éxitar means success in Spanish. So I succeed here, or I succeed here. Salida is a preferred term for exit. This is also a mistake for construction site, keep out. La construcción sitio no entrar. So for construction sites, it's supposed to be plural, and zona de construcción is what would be best. But those are a few examples of how Google translations cannot always make the correct translations. Sometimes when, it's like people I know, when you travel abroad, you learn different norms and what's correct to do and what's not socially acceptable. But lastly, last few points, with smartphones. So smartphones also have had a recent exposure of listening to you. So I don't know if any of you guys have ever had this experience, but when you're speaking on your phone and you see ads come up, sometimes if you're speaking, for example, one of the women in this story, she was speaking about a friend that had passed, and on her phone it came up information about her friend in the friend's old Facebook page. Your phone actually can listen to you, but it's not for anything Facebook related. It's usually to assist in business sales and track website visits and popularities. This differs because when you talk to humans that care about you, it's usually not just for business sales. It's usually make a connection to know more about who you are, and to make sure they want to see that you're a little bit more. Okay, so this is just another example of how we're moving more toward how you've seen the movie Her, of how he spoke to a system and it responded to him. I don't know if you've seen this ad maybe on YouTube, but it is Amazon Echo, and what it does, you speak to it, it can make phone calls, it can tell you about the weather, it can order flowers for you, and what it does is it ultimately takes away from kind of human interaction as well, but it goes off of what it's found in the database. So if anything in the weather is wrong, it tells you what it's found from that database. Okay, so this is just a few more examples of what Amazon Echo does. It's not an actual person, but it can only tell you what it pulls up off of the internet from other computer sources, but not necessarily what it's observing. So in closing, these are just some of the effects of artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence has proven time and time again not to always have the best cultural and social norms, but rather to find what is best for the intent and best for statistic use of what the information is given. Lastly, just so that I don't forget, if you are concerned about anyone listening to your phone conversations, there is a way for iPhone users to go into their settings and Android users to go into their settings and turn off the microphone as well, if that is possible. But that has been my presentation on Is Artificial Intelligence Real? And I hope if artificial intelligence is not real, and I hope you enjoyed the sample. Thank you.